Deep in the remote countryside, surrounded by dense forests and barbed wire, stood Blackridge Penitentiary, a maximum security prison designed to be escape-proof. With high-tech surveillance, motion sensors, armed guards on 24-hour patrol, and thick concrete walls stretching over 30 feet high, it was the kind of place no one ever thought someone could escape from. It held the worst of the worst, men with life sentences, violent pasts, and no hope of parole. Among these dangerous inmates was one man who stood out, not because he was violent or loud, but because he was quiet, calculated, observant. His name was Elias Knox. Elias had been locked up for nearly a decade, convicted of a high-profile bank robbery that ended in the deaths of 2 officers. But rumors swirled that he was no ordinary criminal. Before his arrest, Elias was believed to have been part of an elite group of international thieves, men trained in strategy, stealth, and escape. But nothing was ever proven. In court, he said little. Behind bars, he kept to himself, rarely spoke, and caused no trouble. Most inmates ignored him. Most guards overlooked him. And that's exactly what he wanted. No one knew that during those 10 long years, Elias had been planning something that had never been done in Blackridge's history. On a cold, moonless night, when the prison was cloaked in darkness and silence, Elias Knox vanished, without a sound, without a trace. No alarms went off, no guards saw him leave. By the time anyone realized he was gone, it was already too late. This is the story of how one man, armed with nothing but patience, intelligence, and a perfect plan, escaped from the most secure prison in the country, and how no one even noticed until the sun came up. Elias Knox never rushed anything. His secret weapon wasn't strength or violence, it was time. While others fought over food or smuggled contraband, Elias spent his days watching, listening, learning. From the first day he arrived at Blackridge, he treated the prison like a puzzle. He studied the guards, who was lazy, who took smoke breaks too long, who got distracted during shift changes. He noted which cameras had blind spots, which gates stuck slightly when they closed, and which nights the generators sputtered during power checks. At first, it all seemed like casual glances, nothing suspicious. But over months, then years, Elias began building a mental blueprint of the entire prison. He even mapped out the janitor's cleaning schedule, the exact timing of meal deliveries, and the rare instances when the prison lights flickered during lightning storms. Every detail mattered. He learned that between 2 a.m. and 2:15 a.m., 3 key guards rotated posts, creating a small window of reduced visibility in the West Wing. He noticed that the camera near the laundry room often froze for 15 seconds due to a wiring glitch. And perhaps most important of all, he realized that no one ever double-checked the service hatch behind the boiler room because it was considered too hot and too narrow for anyone to escape through. While others were surviving day to day, Elias was preparing for a night that no one else even knew was coming. Piece by piece, he gathered information, tested boundaries, and waited for the perfect combination of circumstances. He didn't know when it would come, but he'd be ready. Because for Elias, escaping wasn't just about getting out. It was about doing it so perfectly, no one would even realize he was gone. It was a cold, windless night, the kind of night where the darkness feels heavier, thicker, no moonlight, no stars, just silence. Inside Blackridge Penitentiary, the night shift moved like clockwork, guards patrolling, cameras humming, the world wrapped in routine. But Elias Knox knew this night was different. It had taken him years to wait for this exact setup. New guards on rotation, overcast skies to kill visibility, and most importantly, a glitching surveillance system being scheduled for repair the following morning. At precisely 1:57 a.m., it began. In cell block C, 2 inmates suddenly erupted into a brutal, violent fight. One smashed a tray against the wall, the other screamed for help. Guards came running, radios crackled, and dripping steam until he reached the outer perimeter, where a weak spot in the fence waited, one he had slowly cut over months and sealed with painted wire. In the distance, the alarms in cell block C wailed, But Elias Knox was already gone, swallowed by the night. Every step Elias took outside his cell was rehearsed 100 times in his mind. He knew where the cameras looked, and more importantly, where they didn't. For years, he'd memorized their sweep patterns, timed their rotations. Now, in the blackened silence of early morning, he moved like a shadow slipping between cracks in the wall. He stuck to the edge of the corridor, hugging the stone. Where the lights were dim, he paused. Where they flickered, he advanced. His stolen janitor's uniform was smudged with oil and dust, blending perfectly into the industrial gray around him. When he reached the old utility corridor, he stopped and pulled a small, rusted panel from the wall. Behind it was a switch, one he had rewired slowly over months using bits of metal and wire smuggled from cleaning tools. With one flick, 3 security lights along the western fence cut out. It would only last 6 minutes, but that was all he needed. He dropped down into the narrow crawl tunnel beneath the utility shed, a space barely big enough to breathe in. Rats scurried, pipes hissed, but Elias didn't flinch. He crawled with mechanical precision, dragging his bag of stolen clothes behind him. He emerged near the maintenance yard, just 30 feet from the outer wall. A small ventilation shaft, rusted and forgotten, had been pried open weeks ago and disguised with a metal cover. Elias slid inside, squeezing through the final tight stretch of darkness before he reached the outer fence. The final wire, snipped and painted to blend in, peeled away like thread. He pushed through the gap, rolled across the grassy ditch, and vanished into the trees just as the lights snapped back on. Blackridge still slept, but Elias Knox was already free. At 5:45 a.m., the prison buzzed to life like any other morning. Doors clanged open, guards shouted roll call, inmates shuffled into lines, half asleep and half aware. Everything seemed normal, until a single guard, staring at a clipboard, furrowed his brow. "Where's Knox?" The question rippled like a tremor through the cell block. Another guard double-checked the count. A third searched the bathroom. Still nothing. Within minutes, the entire prison was on lockdown. Sirens wailed. Spotlights swept the grounds. Every hallway, every vent, every cell was checked again and again. But Elias Knox was gone. There was no broken glass, no forced doors, no triggered alarms. Cameras showed nothing unusual. It was as if he'd vanished into thin air. Warden Reeves stood in stunned silence as the search expanded to the nearby woods. Dogs were brought in, helicopters circled, and state troopers flooded the area, but they found no scent, no tracks, no trace. Elias had disappeared like a ghost. Investigators scoured every inch of Blackridge for answers. That's when they discovered the subtle signs: a tampered light panel, a loose grate in the crawl space, a patch of fencing that didn't quite match the rest. Nothing was obvious. Everything had been done with surgical precision. News broke within hours. A maximum security inmate had escaped from the most secure prison in the country without anyone noticing until morning. The media went wild. The public demanded answers. But there were none. The warden was suspended. Several guards were interrogated. But no arrests were made. No inside help was ever proven. To this day, no one knows exactly how Elias Knox pulled it off or where he went. His escape became legend. Some say he's living under a new identity. Others think he vanished for good. But one thing is certain: Elias Knox never planned to be found.